did is they took us and took who they wanted off a much larger operation, battalion, landing team, reinforced, joined carrier strike group, went to the Gulf of Oman, waiting for further orders, briefed one day about taking the islands in the Straits of Hormuz in October of 1980, right before the election. Absolutely a risk-free operation. Soviet Union, concerned about their intervention, they only had one company of naval infantry in the area, total inability to respond, islands too small for airborne. Then Iran, total disarray. The Ayatollah Khomeini had threatened that he was going to block the straits to the flow of oil to the west. Never moved, but never did anything to actually affect that. Iraq had just attacked Iran. Their military was in total disarray. So this was about as risk-free military operation as you could possibly get, and about as superficial as you could possibly get. And it appeared in a column by Jack Anderson of the Washington Post that there was going to be an October surprise. And I was at a level where I certainly wasn't a part of the decision-making process, but at that point in time, we spent 45 days there and then did nothing. And so what I've learned since then, at least anecdotally, is that the theory is that somebody inside the Pentagon that was sympathetic to Ronald Reagan, that saw the mission as superficial as what it was, leaked it to Jack Anderson and let the story get out. So would Barack Obama do something that Jimmy Carter maybe would have done, as we did, that would be superficial, that would not be substantive, but would be a rally around the flag for the American people to boast his presidency? I don't know. I don't know that. But that was interesting in terms of my own experience being there. Okay.
We're being told unemployment is 8.2%. Truth be known, it's probably at least twice that. And we have 47 million people getting food stamps. They don't want a job, they want a career, apparently, or something, I'm not sure. What can we do from Congress, other leadership, to tell Americans, hey, look, part of the solution is not to add to the problem. And we have got this line of thinking over here that illegals only take jobs Americans won't do. What do we do to tell Americans, hey, look, you want to eat, you need to work? And those here illegally, not only leave, get the hell out so that the jobs will open up to the people who are on the dole with food stamps and unemployment, and now we've got disability at record numbers.
And the question is,
Somebody has to take the lead to spit out the high-fat sugar tip. Am I looking at that guy, or is that going to be somebody else?
Okay. I think I identified 3 questions there. The first one is the unemployment, which the number is so understated. When we think about part-time people that can't get a full-time job, when we think about the rising cases that are being proved for disability that take somebody off of the rolls altogether, and then we think about those people that have been long-term unemployed that have just given up. None of those are counted in the number when we were now at 8.3%. So when we throw in underemployment and unemployment, the aggregate number is much higher in terms of its impact on this economy. As to the food stamp program, let me just say, I think we do have a responsibility, and I respect that, to take care of those in need. But boy, the food stamp program, first of all, the WIC program is a program that actually works, women and infant and children, where you go in, where a mother with an infant goes to a grocery store, and there's a limited number of items that are for the nutritional benefit of that child and that mother. When I was working on welfare reform in 1996, the Congress of the United States passed welfare reform and gave it to the states. And I took the leadership in the state legislature and I wrote the policy that's current law, although I think it's been watered down a little bit since, for Colorado. And I remember one day I was going in a grocery store by where I live. And some of the women clerks surrounded me and they were really angry. And they said, what are you going to do about the food stamp program? We are so tired of seeing these women come in with these children in tow. And in their grocery cart, there's soda pop and there's chips, but there's nothing of nutritional value for these children. And the children aren't eating as they should. And so I think that what we ought to do in the Congress, and let me just say one thing. When I was in war-torn Iraq in 2006 and went out to some areas, I never saw, in the middle of the war, I didn't see malnutrition, because what we had going was the old Oil for Food program, where we had basic staples. The families lined up, and they got, a bag of rice, and it was all dry goods. Beans, all right, flour, and everything to take home. And I didn't see malnutrition, and very rarely did I see it there. And so I just think what we need to do, I'm not saying that's the solution, but I'm saying this. Let me tell you, there's a movement to go in the opposite direction. The fast food industry wants food stamps for fast food. Because they say, why not? You can buy what you can buy at Taco Bell in the grocery store. You can buy processed foods. And so I think that probably the best thing to do is we need the states need skin in the game. It's 100% federally funded. States need skin in the game, and they need flexibility to design their own programs that work for their specific populations, that instead of this one-size-fits-all policy that tries to expand dependency. Okay.
Mike, what's your vision and the party's vision for the civilian space program?
Oh, the question is civilian space program. I just think that there's an appropriate role for government to be engaged in research. Not that public employees need to be doing the research. I think NASA probably does too much in-house, and they ought to be contracting out to the private sector. And this administration's been everything about insourcing and growing the government. And so I'm very, and I hate this notion that we're outsourcing our launches to Russia. I think that's awfully goofy. I think you can debate about manned space flight versus non-manned space flight and what direction we ought to go. I think it's very important that America maintains technological edge. I do think we have policies that are archaic, we have export controls, as if we still have the leading edge on everything. We don't have an industrial base in aerospace big enough to grow and government be the only client. We've got to strike a balance on those export controls to allow our aerospace industry to export our technology, because China and Europe is going to bypass us if we don't have the ability to have a more competitive industrial base. And so that takes a change in export controls. Last question. Favorite book, last color. Favorite color, last movie.
The president makes a big issue about the transfer of wealth from, he wants to move wealth from the wealthy to the poor. His policies are having a wonderful impact on this country, transferring massive amounts of wealth from the middle class to the wealthy. Why isn't the Republican Party stepping on that issue?
I think the question is why aren't we more vocal about this redistributionist philosophy? And I believe that we are. I think we have to figure out how to penetrate the media. The mainstream media is part of the problem. Let me just say one thing on trade, and I'll leave it with this, in that I'm a strong free trade advocate, and I believe that America can compete given the right policies globally. But I have to say this about China, and I've been working with China on some trade issues for a while, and that they got a number of state-owned enterprises that are heavily subsidized by the government. They have, it took me 2 years to convince the administration to file a trade complaint against China on these rare earth metals that are essential to manufacturing in the digital age. And what China had done is, through government policy, it amassed 95% of the world's supply.